So this is a bit weird. Let's talk about some concepts, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about the channel. If you have spent any amount of time on the internet researching how to do something, anything, any creative field, you've probably come across the idea of just go and do it. Just go and make the thing. If it's music, just actually make some songs. If it's being a film director, there's this idea that now is the best possible time to be a film director, and your iPhone is in your pocket and it has everything that you need to just start. For YouTube, obviously, it's just put a camera up, grab your phone, start making videos, start putting stuff on the internet. And it's packaged with this idea that the first 100 videos that you're going to make, they're going to suck. They're probably going to suck. So just get them out of the road. Like, just get them done, get them out of the road, and then after the first 100 videos, you'll have learned so much that you'll be able to make much better videos, and you'll know much more about being a YouTuber, and you can kind of give it a much better go. As long as you actually start making those videos, that's kind of what's important. And obviously, when you're a small YouTuber, you have no subscribers. You can make mistakes. No one really cares. You haven't got anyone watching, it doesn't matter. You've probably heard even that idea for any skill. It takes 10,000 hours to master. You just need to sit down and do a skill for 10,000 hours, and by that time you will have mastered it enough to be fluent in whatever that skill is. And so when you think about that, the idea of doing YouTube becomes really easy. Just make videos. And then as you kind of dig a little deeper, you find that it's actually kind of a lot more difficult than that. It's a lot harder than you think. You can't just throw videos online and the people will come. Now you need to really consider stuff like titles and thumbnails. You need to consider stuff like audience retention. You need to consider things like click-through rate. You need to look at structuring your videos in certain ways. You need to look at pattern break, put like a joke in there or something just to break up the video, all these little things. And so YouTube becomes this much more difficult thing to kind of process, and also has all of these extra things that kind of hook into it. And this idea of just initially making videos kind of becomes this much more difficult thing. And so what initially seemed easy, this idea that you just need to make stuff, right? You just need to throw some stuff together. It kind of becomes a lot more difficult because you can throw some stuff together, but now you kind of need to package it in a certain way, and it's gonna perform better if you build it in a certain way. Needing to promote it on social media or find places where you can kind of syndicate that content out so that people will find it. And so then you kind of think, well, this is suddenly a pretty difficult sort of thing to do. Veritasium is one of the biggest science communicators on YouTube. Derek from Veritasium used to make these fairly in-depth science videos about unknown kind of science topics, and he recently has released a video titled, as of when I'm sitting here, "My video went viral, here's why," and he followed it up with another video called "Clickbait is Unreasonably Effective." Both really good. You should check them out if you're interested in this kind of like YouTube stuff. The gist of these two videos is essentially what you've probably seen happening on YouTube in terms of like title and thumbnail, clickbaity titles, is basically necessary to make the platform work. It's necessary for you as a content creator to make titles and thumbnails that are eye-catching and grabbing and will get people to click on the video. It's this idea of, if you make the best piece of content in the world, if no one is there to watch it, no one clicks on the video, it doesn't matter for shit. A lot of that work is kind of going to waste. A lot of that work is not really seeing results, essentially, you know. So in these videos, Derek talks about how he used to use much more descriptive titles and thumbnails to describe what he was actually kind of talking about. And he had to move away from that kind of titling and thumbnailing towards a much more YouTube-centric clickbait kind of title. Obviously, there's a method to the madness here. The idea that like creating a more general but enticing title is good because it will bring people in that might not be looking for that specific thing. MrBeast is easily one of the largest channels on YouTube. We're talking hundreds of millions of views. We're talking 80 million something subscribers. Millions of dollars in budgets for a single video to make certain things, to give away cash prizes, to personalize objects in the video to people that are in the video, massive stages, huge productions. We're talking massive money. And all of this goes towards making these videos that are held up as the gold standard of YouTube videos in terms of retention. We're talking 90% retention is the figures that some of MrBeast's videos have, the numbers that are thrown around. And many people hold Jimmy up as the gold standard of what you would want to have in your video as a YouTuber, like the current meta perfect YouTuber. There's been multiple people, including in the Veritasium videos I mentioned before, that have kind of like turned to MrBeast in their videos and had some sort of flavor of, I think I know someone that can actually comment on that video specific topic. Let me just fucking turn around and here's MrBeast sliding in and he's talking about the YouTube stuff. Awesome example of a creator that is really good at keeping people, and I'm going to need a lot of quotes for this one, but engaged, right? Which is why other people kind of turn to him for that kind of advice. Now, I don't really watch a lot of MrBeast. I've watched a few of his videos. I watched the Squid Game video. Obviously, half of the world watched the Squid Game video. It's hugely successful for him. And I'm not trying to take shots here, but I just don't really like his content. Like the idea that it's shot and edited in such a way that it's just constantly freaking happening, like everything's just pumping at you, like there's elements on screen popping up and disappearing and things accentuating, and by the time you can allocate enough resources in your brain to process something, it's already changed and now you're doing something else. But it's undeniable, completely undeniable, that it does one of the most important things for YouTube, and that's it generates audience retention. We already mentioned, some of his videos have 90% audience retention, which is crazy, utterly crazy, with the exception of my 1-minute game design videos, which are probably like that because they're just 1 minute. Most of my videos sit just under the 50% mark. Somewhere around there is generally a good ballpark of what I can expect. Obviously, there's a wide range within that, but about 45% is what I can usually expect on a video, and that's sort of doing pretty well. And that is a metric that YouTube just gushes over at the moment. Like the idea that you can have a ton of people click on these videos, and then those people watch that video all the way through. YouTube just loves that stuff. But is it actually good content? Now, that's obviously a very subjective question, but is it actually good content? Is that kind of what you want when you sit down on YouTube? Obviously, lots of people watch YouTube for lots of different reasons. I kind of think of MrBeast videos as like candy. They're sugar. You can sit down with a meal or something and you can put on a MrBeast video and it will keep your attention for 5 or 10 minutes, right? And you'll be glued in. But you'll take nothing from that. It's not a very wholesome meal that's full of vitamins and minerals. It's candy, it's sugar, it's lollies, it's chocolate. It's this idea of it's num 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 num. You're going to really enjoy it for the 5 minutes that it's on, and then it's going to basically leave you with nothing other than having 5 minutes of your time taken up. Interestingly enough, Marquez from MKBHD actually just recently put out this video where he asked MrBeast a bunch of questions. And in this video, even MrBeast is kind of like even he wants something that's more, for the lack of a better word, nourishing than the kind of content that he's putting out. There's definitely something with MrBeast videos, and obviously a lot of other people have sort of adopted that kind of format as well in various different kind of things, in terms of lots of different things popping up on the screen and constant movement and that really fast talking pace of just so much is happening that there's just not enough time to really process anything to decide that you want to click away because something else is just happening. This idea of stakes, we're going to try and, this is a really dangerous premise that I've seen go wrong, even for massive channels. I watch a lot of Corridor Crew videos, and they're obviously making films, and they're filmmakers, so they have this idea of a narrative structure, and a lot of these dramatic elements need to be in there, like tension and stakes and that kind of stuff. And even they get it wrong sometimes, at least for me, where I'm watching a video and there's a point where I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is bullshit, because this is just artificial introduced stakes so that the video has stakes. And then it's kind of okay, cool, I'm just watching it for the fact that I enjoy it or whatever, and kind of thing. So there's a balance there, don't get me wrong. This is Devon Nash. He is a streamer that I bumped into at the start of 2020. He's doing YouTube content now. And he essentially works with like marketing and business development, and he's the CEO of an agency that represents massive Twitch streamers. And now he's kind of doing this kind of content creation, new media information on YouTube in his videos. But one of the biggest things that I took away from Devon Nash's content, which he got from someone else, is this idea that taking action is better than being in motion. Or more simply put, action is better than motion. To be in motion is essentially to plan for something, right? You know, like I want to make a YouTube video. So I go through and I think about titles and I think about thumbnail ideas and I write a script and I get my lights all set up and I double check my background and I look at my recordings and I think about what shirt I should wear and I do my hair real nice and rehearse and do some graphics in Photoshop or whatever. But the one key thing here out of all of that work that I've done is that I haven't done the one thing that was actually kind of the point, and that's make a video. Like I've done all of that work and I haven't made any content. Another way to kind of look at this is people that go to the gym and they sign up for a gym membership and they go out and they get a whole bunch of like activewear and they buy new shoes and new socks and they kind of research how they're going to do all their exercises and they hire a PT and they do meal prep videos and all that kind of stuff, and then they kind of go to the gym twice and they're like, oh, I don't really like this, and then they just kind of stop. They put all this effort into the motion of doing the thing that they wanted to do without actually doing the thing, without actually taking action and doing it. This is one of the things that's stuck with me, and I think this is one of the things that I'm most likely going to need to take advantage of in the next couple of months, and that's that I want to take action. This video right here is part of that process. Okay, who's ready to watch me sort of fall apart a little bit describing the YouTube channel? This video is part self-helpy tip sort of things, part psychological breakdown, and part channel update. Remember, the first thing that we talked about was just getting out and doing it. For my channel, I had that idea, like everyone that's starting out doing YouTube probably has, where they're like, well, I'm going to learn to make really amazing videos, like straight up. I'm going to completely skip that initial phase. And I'm going to make good quality videos because that's kind of what I want to do. That's what I want to do for me. I don't want to release just, talking head camera videos. I want to make cool edited videos. And the channel sort of slowly started to build and kind of do its thing. And then the pandemic hit. And as you've probably noticed, if you've been following the channel for a while, I know there's a lot of new people. So hello to all the new people that are subscribed or just checking the videos out. But you'll probably notice that I didn't really post too much in the last 2 years. Now, this is kind of because of a lot of factors. But if I can be vulnerable for a moment, I'm scared to make YouTube videos. Not scared in a traditional sense. I'm not worried about something bad that's going to happen. It's more just that I feel like I've built myself into a box. Like I've created my own little prison in the way that I kind of started the channel up. I wanted to have a certain bar of quality, and that bar of quality meant that the content that I brought out I could be happy with, I could be satisfied with. And I guess I just don't want to be scared anymore. Like in creating this video, I'm hoping to try and relieve some of the fear that I have around creating anything. Even creating this video, which is somewhat unorthodox for the channel, I'm worried that there is this imaginary person that I'm going to piss off because this is not game design content. It kind of steps outside the bounds of whatever the channel is sort of as thought of as to whoever watches the channel kind of thing. It's like, this isn't game design content, so it doesn't really belong here on the channel. Like I worried about creating this video that I should have maybe just come back with something better. Like maybe in the effort of coming back and making YouTube videos after having a big break, there would have been a better idea for me to do. Like I should have done a big scripted video, or I should have done a review or something more traditional. And I'm kind of trying to reestablish my mental thought around the content and what's coming out on the channel. Having this large portion of time off and like thinking about this kind of stuff constantly. I've always wanted to come back to the channel. It's been really difficult to kind of like really sit down and get my brain around making a piece of content that I'm happy with. And so what I guess I'm saying is tentatively, I don't know what this is actually going to look like in the future, but we're back. It's been a weird 2 years. I kind of moved in with some friends, and then the whole creation situation wasn't really great. I kind of had most of my stuff set up downstairs in this sort of open area where people would walk back and forth, through the area, that kind of thing. Like one of the guys that I was living with, he had a bunch of different jobs throughout the pandemic, but they all had like early or late start times. So that makes like sleeping hours weird, because like if I'm trying to film after work, he's probably in bed because he has an early morning. It's been a whole roller coaster ride. And so just life happened. I moved, and so now I've got my own space again. I've got a door. That's good. All the good YouTubers have doors, So hopefully the environment will be much more conducive to making some content this year. I'll be able to really knuckle down, get into it. I think things will be a lot more stable, and so yeah. Do you remember when we spoke about the Veritasium videos and titles and thumbnails? Well, here's some chatting about the merit of titles and thumbnails. So in these videos, Derek talks about how he used to use much more descriptive titles and thumbnails to describe what he was actually kind of talking about. And he had to move away from that kind of titling and thumbnailing towards a much more YouTube-centric clickbait kind of title. Obviously, there's a method to the madness here. The idea that like creating a more general but enticing title is good because it will bring people in that might not be looking for that specific thing. I haven't had a ton of success with this strategy. Like, obviously, it's a matter of finding a perfect thumbnail, finding a perfect title, getting those two to work together, and big channels have enough resources that they can make a bunch of different thumbnails and try a bunch of different titles and swap them in and out, and they have the time to do that, to see which is actually working the best. And also it comes down to audience size too. Like, if you've got 3 million people that are potentially going to watch your video, well, in the first 24 hours, you might have 300,000 people that are gonna see that video, right? And so for the first couple of hours, you might get tens of thousands of views, which will give you a good gauge of what things will look like going forward. And then you can swap the title out to something different and try and find something that's nicer or performing better, and then swap it out a third time. And each of those times, you're going to get enough of a hit of views to be able to see the difference. For my channel, I can try this stuff, but I don't have enough, basically, throughput of views to be able to really see if this stuff is going to work or not. So I'm kind of flying in the dark a little bit. Like, I can put the first one up. Hopefully it does well. I can look at how well it's performed, but then I kind of have to basically take like a risk. I have to say, okay, do I think that I've adjusted the title or the thumbnail appropriately to the point where I think it will be more eye-catching or less eye-catching? And do I think this is a better thumbnail? And then I have to change it out. And I kind of just have to hope that it's going to do. I have to kind of go on my gut instinct, because I don't have enough views getting put through the videos at the moment to really actually be able to check that stuff. So I guess in general, I'm just kind of saying that there's going to be more of that. I apologize if things are really like bad clickbaity. That's sort of not my intention, but obviously you kind of have to play the game to a degree, and without a lot of subs, I'm kind of flying in the dark a little bit with that. Having a good title and a good thumbnail is going to get people to click on the video, but then I'd like to also experiment with structural changes to make the videos more watchable, or in theory, like hold the viewer for a little bit longer. Right, let's move along to Mr. Beast, and now his content is kind of like sugar, and we'll talk a little bit about structure. And so there's this kind of balance that I would like to kind of strike. I can hopefully try and balance this element. Like, maybe I'm sort of something more along the lines of, I don't know, like a frozen meal where it's not real great for you, but at least there's something nourishing in there and it's going to kind of keep you going. Metaphorically talking about, like the candy metaphor. I'd like to find a balance. I think there's probably room for me to bring out some content that is something along the lines of more narratively structured content where we have a goal and we're working towards a goal, and there's some stakes and maybe there's some obstacles that get in the road, and then we work through them, as opposed to kind of like the content that I have been bringing out. And that's because I really like the listicle format. Like, I really like that. That's a really good format. And that's the kind of content that I like to watch, is this kind of short, sharp, snappy, no time wasty kind of videos. And that's what I enjoy. You look at my review structure and it's kind of designed to be like that. I always kind of thought of my review structure as like, there's good things about a game and there's bad things about a game, and there's kind of what the game is, and I'd like to highlight the very best things, and I'd like to highlight the very worst things, because if you really want something out of a game and I highlight it, well, then you can pick it up, and if there's really something that annoys you and I highlight it, well, then you can decide not to buy it, kind of thing. But even that format is detrimental to those videos sometimes doing well. It's sort of structured in this way that it doesn't kind of flow from one thing to the next to the next to the next. It's not like a whole piece. It's lots of individual pieces of information for people that want individual different things. Like, it's designed to kind of help a wide swath of people, but that means that each individual person coming to the video is probably only going to need, I only kind of want to watch this chunk, or I only want to watch that chunk. And even putting in the chapters, I've noticed in the videos that a lot of people will watch maybe the first 10 or 20 seconds, and then they jump to the last section, which is, do I recommend it? Should you buy this game? And so you'll see the retention drop right off and then kind of taper off, and then it bounces right back up. Not massively, like maybe another 20% or something like that, so it'll bounce right back up and then sort of taper off again towards the end of the video as people watch the first few seconds, 20, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, and then jump to the end to see whether or not I recommend it, and then bail on the video. And YouTube says that they're working on content that YouTube says that they're working on some sort of metrics to like gauge satisfaction of the viewers and how much they enjoy the videos that they're watching. And like, I don't know how they're kind of doing that. I know that there's some surveys and things that they're doing, and I'd like to think that like those videos and those metrics, when they are actually working correctly, will be awesome, because all of those ideas of like, if you have a tutorial video that's 3 minutes long and you have someone come in and watch just that 40 seconds that they need in the middle, that's an excellent video for that person. Like, that person has got exactly what they needed. That video is perfect for them. But YouTube will see all of those signals and say, this video is an absolute piece of shit, because it's 3 minutes long and they only watched 40 seconds of it, and they bounced, and then they bounced off the platform, kind of thing. So like, at the moment, I'm almost considering changing. I am considering changing the review structure, just because it's not conducive to channel growth. It's not conducive to people seeing my work. And at the moment, I'm in that stage where I need to build up more people. Like, the amount of effort that I'm putting into the work that I previously have done is not worth the reward that I'm getting out of it. And obviously it's a long-term thing, and you have to kind of look at like, how much did you enjoy the work that you did, and you shouldn't be thinking about this as like a job. You should just be enjoying it. But it's a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of effort to kind of sit down, and it's time out of my life and time out of my social life and time out of taking care of myself in some cases, not eating or not going to the gym or not spending time with friends or whatever, so that you can take that time and use it to edit. And I need to kind of balance that a little better. And I'm sure somewhere in between these two things, there's probably a video that is structured well, that keeps you entertained, that doesn't have nonsense stakes, that's, yeah, worth watching. And hopefully we'll find that this year. Who knows? I'm just going to play around with stuff, different pacings, different structures, different things, and just see what works. Okay, jumping across to the action is better than motion stuff that we talked about from Devon Nash. So last year, at the start of January 2021, I went through and I did up a massive plan for the channel. Like, I went through and I was like, I'm going to do these videos, I'm going to do these videos, I'm going to do these videos, I'm going to have these series, I'm going to have this content. I went through and I kind of worked it all out. I was looking at like one review a month and one other video a month, and I wanted to start some sort of like podcasty thing, and I needed to build in enough time so that I had some room in case anything went wrong, because it always does, and schedules always shift and life gets in the road, so I built in some time. And then I kind of just didn't really do any of it. And that was like a multiple factors, some of which we've mentioned before, in the middle of a pandemic. 2020 really just destroyed me with work. Like, it was a really rough time. And so I kind of don't feel too bad about not making content all that much last year, but I would like to get back into it now. This is one of the things that's stuck with me, and I think this is one of the things that I'm most likely going to need to take advantage of in the next couple of months, and that's that I want to take action. This video right here is part of that process. It's part of, I just need to sit down and I need to start making more content, and I need to do that now. Like, I need to stop worrying about all of the other little factors of YouTube. I need to stop worrying about like what the background looks like. Oh no, it's a white wall and there's some dodgy shelves over here, and like the microphone's not, it's sticking in the corner. It doesn't matter. I'm here, I'm making content, I'm creating stuff, and hopefully I'll edit this together. And like, I need to worry less about how fancy it looks. I need to worry less about how well edited it is, how much graphical prowess goes into a video. I just need to edit it together, put it online, move on to the next thing, try and build my momentum back up. There'll be places for the quality, there'll be places for graphics, there'll be places for making things look nice, but most importantly, I need to be taking action, and I need to not allow myself to fall into motion. I'm very prone to motion. My processes very much are like, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a script, and I'm going to research, and I'm going to get some videos, and I'm going to watch some videos so that I have some stuff to put in my script, and I'm going to think about this stuff, and I'm going to go and I'm going to find the best, most perfect example. I'm going to watch through 3 hours of footage to find the most perfect example to dump in under the 10 seconds of talking that I have, which is 10 seconds of a video, which someone is probably like getting some fucking cereal off the corner of their bowl and then and they've missed the 10 seconds of footage that I just spent 3 hours looking for. Like, that process is something that I now need to really try and curb. Obviously, there's going to be like hero graphics, and then there's going to be like filler content, and I need to curb some of that filler content out. It definitely makes for a better video, but it doesn't make for more subscribers. It doesn't make for me having a better time, and it doesn't make for me making more content. Obviously, there's a balance to this. I can't just pull my phone out and make a short and shoot it off and say, hey, action's better than motion, baby. There's obviously a balance to this too, as with everything in life. This video is very just off the cuff, off the top of my head, but I even have put 3 or 4 hours into notes. Like, I've got the document open right here, thought about this stuff. I've thought about like videos that I can kind of link to so that I can kind of refer this back to information that I've found elsewhere. There's a balance to this process, and again, like, the quality's not going away. It's just trying to repurpose some of my resources so that it's not a situation where I'm releasing one video a month and it's 7 minutes long, and most of you probably don't see it on your subscription feeds or your home feeds anyway, and it gets 1,000 views, and I've spent 30 hours for 1,000 views, which gets me 4 cents. 20% of the people that watch the video even get into the second half, and 10% of the people that watch the video finish the video, kind of thing. So I'm going to try and make it as informative as possible. I'm going to try and make it as information dense as possible. I'm just going to try not to waste anyone's time. I don't like waffling. I don't like not having good stuff, but who knows? Maybe there won't be so much B-roll. Maybe there won't be so many graphics. Maybe you'll see a lot more of this where I'm just chatting at you, just throwing stuff at you. This is something that I was questioning whether I should put in the video, but I think I'm gonna chuck it in here just because I'd like to work towards it in the videos this year. Basically, there's this idea floating around the internet, which is something that a lot of smaller content creators have probably heard of, called 1,000 True Fans. It's based on this essay that this guy wrote a little while ago, and it essentially boils down to this idea that, like, you don't need a massive audience paying you money all the time to be able to just kind of like structurally work up to doing this as a full-time job, right? The only thing that you need, hence the title of the article, is 1,000 true fans. That's all you need. You don't need 100,000 people. You don't need PewDiePie's like 100 million people. You just need 1,000 true fans. And the logic behind this idea is that if you can get 1,000 people to pay you $100 a year, then that's 1,000 times 100. That's 100,000. That's easily a livable wage just about anywhere in the world. And you might think, well, $100, that's a lot. Like, I'm not giving you $100. You haven't made content for 2 years. And it's like, fair enough. I wouldn't want you to give me any money that you didn't think I earned. It is this idea that kind of drives people to like push people towards their like Patreon and stuff like that. Because $100 in one transaction doesn't sound real good. You know, what am I going to give you that's going to be worth $100? But if you split that out over 12 months, it's only $8 a month, right? And so that's only like 2 cups of coffee. There's a lot of different ways that you could kind of justify the value of $8 a month. Obviously, this splits out as well. You know, you could have 2,000 true fans that give you $50 a year. That's only $4 a month. Well, $4 a month is a cup of coffee. And if you really enjoyed a video, maybe it's not such a bad idea to buy the guy that made the video a cup of coffee. That's kind of like the mentality of it, right? I would not want anyone to give me any money that they didn't think that I deserved, right? At all. You start getting onto this kind of tiptoey kind of territory of like, it feels gross to put your hand out and ask for money. But hey, I'm putting free content on the internet. You can watch as much of it or as little of it as you want. And if you enjoy it, maybe buy me a coffee once in a while, or obviously maybe sign up to a Patreon or something like that. And I'm basically just including this in the video because I would like to push towards that idea. I'll probably start a Patreon this year, something like that. I'll probably open up YouTube memberships on the actual channel itself so that people can subscribe to the memberships. Obviously, both of those platforms take a cut, and so it's not quite as clean and cut and dry as $100 for per fan from 1,000 fans. Obviously, you know, it's a lot of work. And so if you enjoy the video, it would make a massive difference if people were to monetarily support it. You know, I got to eat. My time isn't worth nothing. I could be doing other things and getting paid for them, but instead I'm putting free content on the internet. And so, you know, asking for a cup of coffee here, or, you know, if you've watched every single video of the channel, you know, for 4 months, maybe, you know, a coffee, signing up for a subscription for a coffee a month in Patreon or YouTube is what you can kind of afford, and also what is the channel is worth to you. And obviously, if I can get enough people doing that, well, then I can up the quality of the channel, and the content that you're paying for gets better, and the hopefully brings in more people because it's better, and it's a positive feedback loop. So, you know, anything at all, anything that you can offer after I've earned it. Don't give me any money now. Let me earn it back first, because I still don't know how the videos are going to go this year. I'm gonna ask for it this year. I'd like to keep making content, and basically I'm just going to try and experiment. I'm going to muck around. I'm going to do some content that I want to do. It's going to probably look very different to what it has previously looked like. I'm not abandoning the idea of quality. I'm not abandoning the idea of it being informative or helpful. I am still going to maintain some sort of bar, but I'm guessing I'm just saying that it'll look different, and I hope you come along on the ride. I hope in the previous content that I've released, you guys have seen something that you like. You've seen something that's informative. Maybe in the end, the videos that I'll be bringing out will be better and you'll enjoy them more, or they'll be more informative. Who knows?